Post-apocalypse woman 2, killing the black market in North Myanmar. Alone in the inn, I was targeted by the black innkeeper. The black market refers to places engaged in illegal activities, where one can be kidnapped, robbed, or even killed. They were discussing selling me to North Myanmar for my kidneys. In the middle of the night, I opened the window intending to escape when the female ghost lying beside my bed burst out laughing. "What are you panicking about? A trip to North Myanmar can be considered a training journey." Looking at the three ghosts in the room, I suddenly felt calm again. That's right, it was true that I came to the inn alone. But beside me were three ghosts protecting me, so what was there to be afraid of? My name is Tam Tin Lone, and they all say I am a descendant of Nu Oe. But aside from having yin-yang eyes, I have nothing particularly special. After my grandmother passed away, she left behind three ghosts to protect me. Hin Thien is a headless male ghost, Tuong Then is a zombie, and my Noong is a masked ghost who changes her face every day, with no 2 days alike. They were originally ancient deities and monsters, but in the modern age, only a trace of their soul remains. Therefore, they can only be called ghosts. They cling to me because they want me to restore my magical powers to help them, but I truly have no ability to do so. As long as the seal on you is broken, we can restore our powers. Then how do I break the seal? Of course, through dedicated cultivation and going through tribulations to break the seal. They want me to embark on a path of cultivation to lift the seal on me. At first, I stubbornly refused to cultivate at all. But my world seems to have opened Pandora's box. Besides ghosts, there are many other demons and monsters. The three of them urged me. Do you think the world you live in is very safe? The human realm has now been invaded by demons and monsters. As a descendant of Nu Oe, you can't be indifferent. My life is not peaceful at all. My luminous heart is like Tang Sang's flesh, attracting all kinds of demons and monsters. Instead of living in fear, I would rather think of ways to make myself stronger. But as soon as my path of cultivation began, I encountered trouble while resting at the inn. The innkeeper, shirtless, with a tattoo of a green dragon and a white tiger on his arm, gave an impression that I shouldn't get involved right from the first meeting. He held a cigarette and asked me, "Alone?" I looked at the three ghosts beside me and nodded, yes. The innkeeper handed me the room key, last room on the second floor. In the middle of the night, as I was sound asleep, I suddenly heard a hissing sound coming from behind the door. Hin Thien's head suddenly rolled over to my feet, saying, "Where is North Myanmar?" "I just heard outside the door that they want to take you to North Myanmar for a trip. These people are really enthusiastic." I immediately lost all drowsiness and quickly sat up. Being sold to North Myanmar means I would have my kidneys taken. If I don't escape now, then when? I pulled the window open, only to see it surrounded by iron bars, and I felt despair. I went back to grab a fruit knife from the table, planning to resolve it with force. At this moment, I felt very fortunate to have learned some self-defense techniques. My Noong had changed to a beautiful face, lying sideways on my bed, laughing. "What are you panicking about? There are only a few people." Looking at the three ghosts in the room, I suddenly calmed down again. After all, I still had three ghosts to protect me, so what was there to be afraid of? The innkeeper and a few of his lackeys pushed the door open and entered my room, their tall figures blocking the light from the hallway. Upon seeing me standing there with a fruit knife, they immediately burst into laughter, unable to stand upright. Seeing this, they no longer pretended, "Stop resisting. To be honest, we want to sell you to North Myanmar, just for survival, we have no other choice." I signaled my Noong with my eyes, wanting her to reveal her true form. "My Noong, go." The innkeeper followed my gaze, furrowing his brows. "Met a fool, looks like we won't get much for her, what bad luck." Meanwhile, my Noong's group looked at me as if watching a play, showing no intention to help. Tuong Then was even more indifferent, No need to save her, let them take her to North Myanmar. The innkeeper immediately ordered his lackeys to tie me up. I dodged, and the fruit knife in my hand was pressed against the innkeeper's throat. Don't move. If you take another step, I'll slice his throat. My Noong laughed as she pressed her pale face against mine, causing me to feel a chill. Relax, sweetie, there's a shrine to the La Sat Nu mountain in Myanmar. You should pay your respects early. Hin Thien chimed in, exactly, Tam Tin Lone, let them take you to Myanmar first. It'll save you the trouble. Walking would be exhausting. The innkeeper was about to plead for mercy when I let go. He froze for a moment and then called for people to tie me up again, right? If you behave, you might suffer less. I was blindfolded for the entire journey, swaying along with the vehicle, and I had no idea how long we had been traveling. I could still hear my Noong's incessant complaints in my ears. She had now learned to use her phone to chat online. Her online boyfriend kept wanting to meet, but my Noong had refused. Now they were arguing about breaking up. The vehicle stopped, and I was pulled out. A nauseating smell hit me, and my blindfold was also pulled off. Even though I had prepared myself mentally, the scene before my eyes still made my stomach churn. In a vast lake, they were throwing half-dead people into cylindrical containers with holes and drowning the containers in the lake. The moment the containers sank, waves surged on the surface of the water. If one looked closely, they could see thick eels swimming through the holes to enter the containers and devour the people inside. A man in black, who was feeding the fish, turned to look at me and asked, "A new pig?" The innkeeper respectfully bent down and nodded, "Yes, boss." The man in black approached me, pinched my cheek hard, and pointed at the lake. "Do you know what this is?" Feeding fish with corpses, the eels in this lake only eat human flesh. They're both fat and juicy. I'm sure you don't want to become their meal, do you? He slapped my face. Behave, and you might live, got it? I understood all too well the intimidation tactics of these people. Making the newcomers see the scene of eels eating human corpses was meant to break down their psychological defenses, forcing them to submit obediently. Understood. I looked up at him, and he nodded, clearly satisfied. Then he turned and said to the lackeys behind him, "Take her to the boss for a physical examination. This area is entirely a black industrial zone. Men who are captured here become slaves, while women become prostitutes." I was taken to their boss's room. In the center of the room, decorated in contrasting red and black, was a striking large round bed. The instruments hanging on that sinister bed were even more dizzying. They pushed me in front of the bed and grinned, "If you serve the boss well, it'll be less painful for you." According to them, all newly arrived women must be inspected by the boss to complete the process. They left with lewd smiles, slamming the door behind them. The sound of water in the bathroom continued to echo. I had to find a way to escape before the person inside came out. I pushed open a hidden door and was startled by the ghostly face before me, cursing under my breath. My Noong smiled, wiping the fresh blood off her face, suddenly appearing with a vibrant human skin mask. Why did everyone arrive so late? Wasn't it said we needed to go to the La Sat Nu mountain? My Noong applied the human skin to her face like a mask, saying, "Next, you'll have to watch my performance." In an instant, my Noong transformed into an incredibly beautiful person. I knew she was in the mood to play, so I pulled her back. "Stop playing, it's not safe to stay here long." "It's not that I want to play, but can you bear to watch these girls being tortured to death here?" My Noong pulled back the black cloth behind her, and only then did I realize that there was another space in this hidden room. A group of naked girls was trapped inside a huge cage. They huddled in a corner, trembling with fear, clutching themselves. The girls, their faces stained with tears of terror, rushed up, crying and looking at me, "Please, save us." My Noong extended her slender finger to stroke their hair, saying heartbrokenly, I can't bear to see beautiful people cry. I took a deep breath. Wait for me to go out and tie that guy up, you take them away. My Noong pondered, there are too many people here, you can't use force, only wit. The sound of water in the bathroom stopped abruptly. My Noong turned to me, you stay here, let me go. The bathroom door was pulled open, and a tall, muscular bald man stood in the mist, shaking his shoulders, his body taut with muscles. My Noong scoffed, swaying her hips as she walked over. Oh. Guessed. I nearly vomited. No man is immune to my Noong's charms. I hid in the hidden room, able to see the situation outside through a faint crack in the door. That bald man did not hide his gaze, staring nakedly at my Noong's slender waist. Hungry for her, he lunged forward, but my Noong gently dodged, causing him to miss. The bald man laughed heartily, clearly delighted. My Noong was a master of seduction, with just a sweet smile and a soft voice, he was enchanted and lost his mind. Taking the opportunity, my Noong slipped around behind him, wrapped her arms around his neck, and sweetly whispered in his ear, do you like my Noong the most, guest? The bald man took her hand, I do, I'd give my life for you. But I heard you have other women hidden in your room, and that makes me very unhappy. If they upset you, they deserve to die. I'll send someone to sell them all, the money will be yours to buy whatever you want. Oh, darling, killing people for me would shorten your life. How about you just release them all? Accumulate a little merit, and wouldn't it be better for you and me to enjoy our time together? In the bald man's eyes, there was only my Noong, and he agreed without hesitation. He even ordered his men to quickly release the girls from the cage. Although his subordinates were puzzled, they obediently complied upon seeing his confident demeanor. They entered the hidden room, pushed the cage out, and freed everyone. I still hid in the hidden room, waiting for my Noong to finish her act. My Noong held the bald man's neck, a spine-chilling smile on her face. She gently blew into the bald man's face, and he fell onto the bed. He rolled around on the bed, laughing uncontrollably like he was drunk. My Noong immediately stopped smiling and walked over to me, we need to hurry. I put on my Noong's clothes while she donned the bald man's skin, and together we confidently walked out of the room. Where are Tuong then and the others? They're waiting outside. My Noong's expression looked heavy, and her footsteps quickened. I always feel something unusual here, there's a very sinister presence. As soon as I finished speaking, the large door in front suddenly slammed shut. My Noong, slightly panicked, held her head, Tam Tin Lone, my head hurts so much. I supported my Noong, and from behind came the bald man's voice. Sinister karma. I was almost thrown into chaos by your soul-catching technique. Luckily, my Dao techniques are profound, you absolutely cannot cause any trouble here. The bald man, holding a staff and wearing a monk's robe, looked like a monk. But of course, he was not an ordinary monk, he was a sinister monk who broke rules and engaged in evil deeds. As long as he muttered, my Noong would suffer a headache and lose control. At this moment, this woman still pushed me away, trying to block this sinister monk herself. Tam Tin Lone, you should go quickly. This guy is the sinister monk Dao Kin, he's not easy to deal with. How could I leave my Noong behind to go alone? I took off the necklace I was wearing and activated my yin yang eyes. At that moment, I realized that many restless souls abused and killed by Dao Kin had appeared around me. But they were all trembling in the corner, almost afraid to take a step forward. The thought of calling upon evil spirits to surround and attack faded away, it seemed Dao Kin was quite formidable. At a critical moment, a head fell from the ceiling. I jumped in fright, seeing Hin Thien descend from above, reattaching his head to his body. Tuong then smashed the door open, shattering it into dust, and I immediately felt the urge to fight. Everyone finally made it here. Dao Qin grinned, pulling a jar out from his monk's robe. Just in time, my soul-collecting jar hasn't captured any evil spirits for a long time, it's very hungry. You'll be perfect for it to sharpen its teeth. Hin Thien was no longer his usual boastful self and spoke seriously. Dao Qin, don't you fear heaven's punishment for all your evil deeds? Heaven's punishment?
Ha! Ha! Ha!
Where is heaven? Even the Nuoe clan is gone. Who is left to enforce heaven's punishment? As Dao Qin spoke, he raised the soul-collecting jar in his hand, and immediately, strong winds began to swirl through the narrow corridor. Tuong then shielded me behind his tall frame, while my Nuong and Hin Thien rushed forward to fight against the magical powers emitted from the jar. I knew they wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Tuong then pushed me away from the door. Go! I was forcefully shoved by Tuong then, tumbling away for over 100 meters, straight through the wall and falling outside the area. Fortunately, when I fell, a force caught me, allowing me to land safely. I knew that if I returned now, it would do nothing but create more trouble for them. At that moment, I began to loathe my own inadequacy. I remembered what my Nuong had said before, that she had come to Myanmar to reach Mount La Satnu for cultivation. There must be some celestial beings there who could help. I flagged down a taxi and rushed to Mount La Satnu that very night. Upon arriving at the foot of the mountain, I looked up to see a peak shrouded in mist. Inside, I felt a vague sense of unease. But for the sake of the three of them, I pushed myself to climb the mountain. As I entered the mountain, I encountered a group of villagers also heading up. They examined me from head to toe, speaking in a language I didn't understand. A young man with a dark complexion stepped forward and asked, "Are you here to worship the Snake Lady?" I was taken aback and said, "Yes, she is the celestial maiden of this mountain, right?" "That's right, worshipping the Snake Lady will grant you safety. My name is Tung, and I can lead you to see her." I followed Tung to the temple at the mountain's peak. "Please wait here for a moment, the Snake Lady will appear shortly." I nodded and walked around the temple. The incense in this temple was truly thick, it seemed many people came here to offer their prayers. When I realized this fragrant smoke could make one dizzy, my legs went weak, and I fell down. When I woke up, I was tied to a column on the altar like a sticky rice cake. Tung looked at me, sprinkling strange seeds onto my body. I struggled and shouted, "What are you doing? Let me go." Being able to be sacrificed to the Snake Lady is your luck, don't be ungrateful. As soon as he finished speaking, the wooden board beneath the altar was pushed away. I lowered my head to look. Below was a deep pit of several meters, crawling with snakes. Tung and the villagers began to mutter together, then shouted in unison and knelt down, igniting the offerings on the altar. Tung took a dagger and cut the ropes that bound me. I immediately fell into the pit full of snakes. I cursed silently and struggled among the snakes, trying to crawl up. "You are a descendant of the Nuoe? How did you fall to such a state?" Suddenly, a woman's voice rang in my ears, and I looked around to see a cobra sticking its tongue out at me. "Are you talking to me? You are from the Nuoe clan, of course, you can understand the language of animals. Why are you so shocked?" I was surprised that this transformation could activate my ability to understand animal speech. The cobra next to me sighed, "The seal on her is too strong, she has likely forgotten her mission long ago." Exactly. If not, this world wouldn't be overrun with monsters, forcing us to surrender to this evil Snake Lady. While they were talking, a head suddenly poked in from above, and he shouted in horror, "She's still not dead. She's safe." The snakes huddled together, the Snake Lady is about to get angry. In an instant, the sky was covered with dark clouds, and thunder rumbled. Strong winds blew the leaves, swirling into the pit. I looked up at the sky, where a giant snake head was slowly poking into the pit. It was a golden cobra, with a tongue several meters long. I had heard that the locals regarded the golden cobra as a divine creature, which explained why the crowd agreed to submit to it. The huge snake head flicked its tongue, wrapping around me and lifting me out of the pit and into the air. As I fell from above, I saw the enormous golden cobra lifting its head, opening its bright red mouth wide. In that moment, a wave of heat surged from my chest. A cold and extremely powerful voice echoed from within me. "You little insignificant demon, what can you do to me?" My anger was as fierce as thunder in the sky. The moment I fell into the snake's mouth, I instinctively channeled my energy and struck the giant cobra, which was dozens of meters long, into several pieces. The huge snake head fell heavily into the snake pit. In just a few seconds, the severed body of the snake turned to dust. The surrounding villagers stood frozen in place, then scattered like madmen. It seemed that the curse of the snake demon on them had vanished with its death. Perhaps in a few days, they would wake up, and everything would feel like a long dream. I looked down at my hot palms, where a wisp of green smoke was slowly dissipating from my fingertips. Just now, a powerful and unfamiliar force had collided within me. So, the seal on me has been lifted? When I was in mortal danger, was that the best opportunity to break the seal? This moment made me completely believe in my mission. The snakes crawled out of the pit, wriggling toward me. The leading snake, a king snake, had a crescent-shaped scar between its eyes and a tall, graceful body. It whispered, "We have been imprisoned by the snake demon for many years. Thank you, princess, for saving us. The celestial snake staff will finally return to its rightful owner." The king snake stood upright, and suddenly a five-colored light surrounded its body. When the light vanished, the king snake transformed into a blue-black staff standing in place. I lifted my hand, and the staff fell into my grip. It felt cool, just like the king snake's body. Beautiful, but not easy to carry. The celestial snake staff immediately shrank into a small blue-black snake that coiled around my right index finger, transforming into an exquisite snake-shaped ring. How nice, it even obeys. Great, you have a white crescent mark on your forehead. I'll call you Anoyet from now on. This way, it would be much more convenient for me to take it with me. After saying
goodbye
to the snakes, I left the La Satnu mountain with the celestial snake staff. My three companions were still waiting for me to rescue them. When I returned to northern Myanmar, it was already late at night. At a nearby silver shell door, I spotted a man in dark clothes smoking. He was a subordinate of Dao Kin. I pulled him into a dark alley and asked, "Where are the demons Dao Kin captured?" I don't know. Not telling? I'll cut out your tongue." He gasped, trembling, and pointed toward the nightclub in front of us. "The masked demon is inside the nightclub, the other two, I really don't know." I let him go and turned to leave the dark alley. He cursed under his breath and picked up a brick to sneak attack me from behind. But the next second, he cried out in pain and knelt down. In the glass across the street, his terrified face reflected as a poisonous snake wrapped around him. A few adorable black mamba snakes slithered swiftly beside me out of the alley. They were indeed very clever, knowing who I found unsightly. The man's screams echoed behind me. Where did all these snakes come from?
Ah!
Get away! I didn't turn around and walked straight toward the nightclub across the street. The lights in the nightclub were dim and the music was a chaotic mix. In front of the stage, catcalls and whistles filled the air as I pushed through the crowd. The moment I saw the stage, I clenched my fists, the urge to kill boiling in my chest. My Noang was trapped in a cage by Dao Kin, tied with magical ropes, forced to dance for the audience below the stage. Countless bills were thrown onto the stage, all wanting to buy a night with this stunning beauty. It was time to eradicate this nauseating dark hell. I lightly kissed the ring, and in the distance, a Noyet slithered to my side. Seeing the giant snake, the screams immediately erupted throughout the nightclub. The guests, ignoring the money scattered on the ground, fled in panic like bees losing their hive. My Noong, covered in injuries, looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. Tam Tin Lone. Behind me, Dao Kin's shameless laughter echoed. The three of them traded their lives for you. Do you dare to come back? I turned around. If looks could kill, Dao Kin would surely be shattered into 1,000 pieces right now. But he only laughed so hard that his entire body shook. Well, capturing you two would be great. A cage full of sister prostitutes would definitely be very entertaining. Try catching me first, I replied. He glanced at a Noyet beside me and shook his head with a smile. Do you really think you can confront me just because you brought a pet snake? A Noyet bared its fangs and lunged at him, but Dao Kin immediately pulled out a soul-catching bottle from his robe, pointing the opening toward a Noyet. As the mouth of the bottle opened, a strong wind immediately surged forth. After all, this was a treasure capable of swallowing countless demons, and a Noyet shrank into a tiny snake under the force of the fierce wind. Seeing that a Noyet was about to be sucked into the bottle, I kicked at Dao Kin, causing the soul-catching bottle to fall from his hand. He was quick to try to pick it up, but I swept my leg, and the bottle landed on the stage. I caught a Noyet, and after the 5-colored light vanished, it transformed back into the celestial snake staff in my hand. The madness in Dao Kin's eyes was suppressed, replaced by a growing murderous intent. Indeed, you are a descendant of Nu Oe. How delightful! With your spiritual essence, I won't need to earn a living in this human realm anymore. The world will belong to me. Go fulfill your spring and autumn dreams in the underworld, I retorted. I swung the celestial snake staff, still feeling a bit awkward with it. After a few clumsy moves, it didn't resemble the thunder strike from before. Initially, Dao Kin was somewhat cautious, but seeing this, he relaxed. Did the seal just break? Even if you are a descendant of Nu Oe, what can you do without using your spiritual energy? So what if you have ancient divine weapons?
Ha! 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 Ha!
Dao Kin drew the binding ropes and tied me up tightly. My arms ached, I could only let go, and the celestial snake staff fell to the ground. The binding ropes tightened more and more. I felt my chest constricting, almost unable to breathe. Just when I felt I was about to die, a huge surge of power suddenly appeared. I merely moved slightly, and the binding ropes snapped apart instantly. I raised my hand, and the celestial snake staff on the ground quickly flew back into my grasp. The murderous intent in Dao Kin's eyes deepened. He swung the staff towards me. I dodged his attack, and the celestial snake staff burst into heavenly flames. Dao Kin charged at me, and his face was immediately surrounded by flames, scorching a portion of his skin. He crouched down, holding his head, trying to find water to extinguish the fire. He poured liquor from the table over himself, but the flames only blazed higher. Before long, his screams of agony faded away. His body remained hunched in place. When the fire died down, only a charred head was left. I jumped onto the stage and rescued my Noong from the cage. She fell into my arms, tears streaming down her face as she sobbed. I've never been humiliated like this before.
Ah! Ah! Ah!